Question of the day. What is your favorite game in another game's universe? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, think about it. Like Rex is in the Twilight Imperium universe. I don't know, Mansions of Madness and all that sort of stuff is in the Arkham Horrors files. What is your favorite game in another game's universe? Let me know in the comments below, because today we're taking a look at a 2 to 4 player card game all about keeping your golf score kind of low, which actually means you're trying to get the least amount of werewolves in your town. That's right, we're talking about a game based in the werewolf universe, which is basically the universe, right, except with werewolves and silver, a lot of silver. We're talking about a game called Silver. Now, it's really a game series called Silver, because we're going to take a look at all of them, essentially. Talking about how they play, what they do, what they are, and which and if and all should you get right now. Collection, and I just kept it in one box, but I did keep this box lid because it's my favorite of them. But every single one of them fits in here, so all 0 to 13, just with the different expansions, fits in here, and it fits sleeved cards. So if you sleeve your cards, that's the kind of person you are. You know, more power to you, but that also fits in here. So all 4 so far Silver series fit in this one box, and I really like that. So here we are with Silver on the close-up pad right here. I want to point out the reference card guides are the lifeline to this game. Now, once you learn the rules, basically you can almost chunk the rules, because this is what really matters, because the rules are going to stay the same, and they're very well done here on the reference cards. This is a reference card from each of the 4 versions of Silver, and like I showed you, I have all 4 in here. So we've got what the dagger does, what the amulet does, what the bullet does, and what the coin does. Other than that, it tells you how to play the game. You're going to take from the deck over here a set of cards of 1 to 13. Now, if you're going to play with just one version, so you just want to just play with amulet, or you just want to play with bullet, or just want to play with coin, or what is the last one? Dagger. You would take those specific ones out. You'll shuffle them up instead of mixing. But what you can do is you can go through here and say, well, I want to mix and match. I want to do 5 from this set. I want to do 4 from that set. I want to do 9 from that set. I want to do 10 from that set. So let me get a set of cards out here, and I'll show you what we're going to do right now, how to play. So we'll actually look what a collection of these cards do here in a minute, but you're going to take all those 13 cards, 13 times, well, it's 12 times 4, and then 2 and 2, so whatever that is, 48, 52. I think there's about 52 cards in here, essentially making it a kind of a complete deck, right? Because 1 through 12 times 4, that's 48, and then 2, and then 2. So yeah, 52 cards. Now what's going to happen is you're going to shuffle those cards all up. Now we have a couple different sets mixed together here, and then you're going to deal 5 cards out to 4 players, no matter what the player count is. You will then get rid of the other sets that you don't need. So if you're playing with 3 players, you'll take one of those suits of cards out of there, one of those hands of cards out of there. If you're playing with 2, you're going to drop 2 of those cards out of there. If you're playing with 4, well, you obviously just keep 4. Now, this is your town here in front of you, your village. You have access to these. You cannot look at these unless you're told to. Now, you can look at 2 of these cards first. You get to keep, so I always tend to look at the ones on my left just for memory's sake, because you cannot look later unless you're given the ability to. So the villager, when face up in if any other zeros face up in a village, the round ends immediately. And then you can look at another card as well. So this is the 1, this is the squire. When face up, display 1 card face up from the deck. So that will affect the cards on the actual deck itself. Now, your goal in the entire game of Silver is to golf score it. You're going to try to have the lowest score at the end of the game. So on your turn, you can draw a card from the top of the deck, and you can either do one of 3 things with it. You can use its ability if it has that symbol, and we're going to look at all the different cards in a minute. You can just straight discard the card because it's too high. So if you draw a 13 and you can't use it, you're going to discard it, obviously. Unless you can use its power. And then your other option is you're going to exchange the card for 1 or more of your cards. So if you had, let's just see what I have here. So I have 2 villagers here. If I happen to have 2 villagers and I know I have 2 villagers, I can then trade one of those cards out for both of these, which means I will have less cards than 5, which allows me to do the third thing that you can do, which we'll call for in just a second. Second thing is you can take from the discard pile. You could take the top card from the discard pile in exchange for 1 or more of your cards. Now this will happen face up, which is an easy way to get those cards that say when face up, which is what that symbol means, into your village, and those powers become active because they're not active unless they are. So this says if this ability, so that's, I'll show you the symbols. It says if this, use this ability when the card is face up in your village. Use this ability when you draw the card from the deck, then place it on the discard pile. That does not work from the discard pile, only from the deck. This says use this ability if the card is face up right before scoring that round. And then this says use this ability at scoring. So this is an interesting thing because all the different cards in the different sets have different powers. Silver Amulet's the most basic, and then it kind of skews up from there. So what you can do now is you can call for a vote. With 4 or fewer cards in your village, you call for a vote. Then other players get one more turn. Remember, it's kind of like you're playing werewolf, right? So other players will take one more turn. They'll either get to draw a card, hopefully get rid of some points out of their hand, and then they will put, then you will do a vote. Basically, you're going to turn all your cards face up. If anything affects scoring, you'll take those points out, or you'll do the math on that. Then you'll add together the total. If the sum is less than or equal than every other player, you score 0 points. If your sum is greater than any other player, it's 10 points plus your sum. That's the one if you call for the vote. If you didn't call for the vote, it's the sum of your card. The other thing to mention, there are 4 different little silver, well, they're probably not really silver, but they're probably pewter or aluminum. We have the dagger. The dagger changes direction of play. So in a 2-player game, it'll actually skip a turn if you have the dagger in front of you. The amulet allows you to protect one of your cards so somebody can't use a card's power to take it from you. The bullet is to remove one of your cards from the game. And the coin is to flip over any card. So you can use these once per round if you have those at your ability. But let's take a look at now at the different ones. So here's the ones in silver coin. Let's see what we have here. So just to kind of give you a different flavor, the one in coin is a con artist, and it allows you to do some interesting stuff. I'll leave it on the screen here for a second if you want to read what these do. The curator, for each face-up curator in your village, you may do one of the following. Rotate one of the cards 90 degrees or discard one of the cards in your village. This is already 90 degrees. So essentially, it allows you to get rid of some cards rather quickly. You have things like the Blob and the Apprentice Tanner, the Huntress, Nostro, the Assassin, the Psychic, Nosferatu, and then over here is the Golem and the Village Idiot. So the Village Idiot obviously does some shenanigans there, but that's just what comes in coin. Coin has the thickest of the reference guides, so I'm assuming it's probably some of the, well, I'm not assuming, it's probably some of the craziest. Over here, you have the Lycan, you have the Priest, the Goth Girl, the Mortician, the Cow, the Instigator, the Insomniac, the Thing, the Marksman, the Count, the Troublemaker, and the Gremlin. Again, you can see these on pause if you want to. The Copycat, and then it always gives you instructions on combining decks on what to do. So that's Silver Bullet. Amulet, here's the most basic. These cards are very straightforward. So you have the Squire, the Master, the Witch, the Robber, the Empath, which allows you to basically always view a card if it's face up in your village. The Seer, view any face down card, return it face down afterwards. Apprentice Seer allows you to see other people's cards. The Exposer allows you to turn a card face up, therefore having one of its powers active. And then last but not least is the silver dagger for the cards out of it. And we'll show you. So you have the Deck Collector, the Spy, the Halfling, the Sentinel. Good gosh, look at the Zombie and the Sentinel. They have a ton of text there. But basically, they're pretty straightforward. The Zombie has certain interactions with some of these cards, which is pretty funny. It does certain things based on what card is near. You have the Elusive Seer, the Flipper, the Magician. There we go. Mystic Renfield. That's awesome. So a lot of these different cards and a lot of different combinations, but the Silver Series is just a lot of fun in how it changes and does a lot of interesting things with this system it sets up. So that is the Silver Series. Essentially, it is a very simple machine, right? You have a set of cards 0 to 13. That's it. And they all have certain powers on them. But depending on which set you're playing with or which mixture of the sets you're playing with, the powers of those cards will change. So you're essentially going to take a card, like we talked about. Maybe you discard it, maybe you switch it. But ideally, you're trying to winnow down and see, when I know what I have, can I call for the vote yet? Is it smart for me to call for the vote? Because I now know that my points are fairly low, but I can't remember what that card is. So I like that push and pull mechanic of that, the idea that you need to get those cards out of your hand, but you also want to take advantage of the powers that are there. It's also good because some of the cards do certain things that are very helpful if they're face up. Some of them, if they're in your city face down, they don't do anything, where some of them are very helpful if they are used as you turn them over in the deck. So the mechanics are very simple. You're doing one of 3 things, basically. You're going to draw a card, you're either going to switch it with one of yours, you're going to play its power, or you're going to discard it, right? Or you could switch one of the ones on the discard pile for one of your cards, or you can also, well, not or, but you can also use some of the powers associated with the ones that are in your village already. So
very basic machines, but the mechanics really whip up into a furor when you're having to figure out, okay, what are my cards? What do I even have in my 5-card tableau in front of me? That's when the game gets really interesting. You're trying to figure that out. Now, as far as art and things like that, it looks essentially like the other, werewolf properties, which is all theater of the mind, right? You have a card telling you you're the villager, wake up. You have that sort of thing. But in this, you have cards with all the different roles, their art, and all that sort of stuff is just pretty much there. It's that same cool looking, almost 3D, but I don't know how they do it, but the art from the werewolf series, so very nice there. But pretty simple. Now, at the end of the day, what I'm going to say is the Silver series, it's akin to, in my mind, something like Fox and the Forest. Now, hear me out. That's a very simple trick-taking game made for 2 players, but the idea is you are playing a game with very winnowed-down mechanics that still allows for a lot of complexity when it comes to combos, when it comes to hoping that you have enough information to finish the game and get just under the score so that maybe you're low enough that you can take the bullet or the dagger or the amulet or the coin, right? So there is a lot at play in Silver, but it's also very simple. So at the end of the day, it looks all right. It looks good. The art's fine. The mechanics, very simple, but also allow a lot of depth from the different combinations of the characters, whether you're playing one of the 4 sets by themselves or whether you're taking this one and this one and this one and slamming it together into your own silver ingot and just playing the game, right? So I do like how it plays. It's very simple, looks good on the table as far as it's easy. What I mean by that is it doesn't take a lot of room. So like you could play this in a small area. I like the memory factor. I like that you have to know what your cards are and that you're trying to figure out your cards and also trying to think, well, wait a minute, why would they protect that card? That's probably a pretty good card. So Silver, it's fun, quick card games. If that's kind of your style, definitely pick this up. It's a really fun one to throw in between games, especially on game nights and stuff. But it's also one of those nice, I don't really want to dive into a heavy game. Let's play something quick. Plus, it's an easy way to get people who are either phase 10 onlys, they don't know anything about these hobby games, or werewolf onlys who are like, hey, have you ever played Mafia or Werewolf? Yes, but I got this card game that does some things based on that universe. So this is another great example of a stepping stone down the rabbit hole sort of game that will get people further into the hobby. So that is the review of the Silver series by Bezier Games. I am Brian Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Dice Tower Brian. Until next time, we'll see you. That was a Wolfpack reference. You know if you know.